This is Glambition Radio, episode number 271, Breaking Out of the Success Matrix with Eleanor Beaton.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Welcome to Glambition Radio. I am your host, Allie Brown. I'm an entrepreneur, mentor, investor, and founder of The Trust, the modern premier network for 7- and 8-figure women leaders. I love thinking big, doing different, and exploring ideas that disrupt the status quo, especially when it comes to women, because we are creating the new models for leadership, business success, making money, and changing the world. And hey, we're doing it with style. So let's go. I can't wait to share this next bonus episode with you. This is from my Iconic Conversation series. I had these IG lives that I did, and some of them came out so great. I'm thinking I've got to share these with my Glambition listeners. I cannot risk that they will not hear these. And so here's another one for you with the fantastic Eleanor Beaton. And Eleanor is someone I got to know, I think the first year I got to know her was 2016. And she came into my door for a few years of coaching. She was really mapping out her next level. And Eleanor is truly one of, if not the most prominent experts on women's leadership. Make sure you follow her. But this conversation we're going to have is all about what we talk about at Iconic. It's breaking out of your previous success matrix. So the last 2 years here have been a wild ride, right? A lot of things changing, things that we built our success on may be gone. Ways that we valued our success are disappearing. This is the beauty of this. We are reinventing models that matter. And this is what women have been doing for decades in the world of business. And man, now it's just wide open for us to build whatever we want in the way that we want to do this. And Eleanor has been an attendee at my Iconic event more than once, iconicwithallybrown.com, and she will share why on this interview. But don't you wait, go to iconicwithallybrown.com. We have a few seats left. We would love to have you there. We are looking for a select few more women leaders who really are just craving being in a room of intelligent women, having intelligent conversations about business and their missions and their impact and the world. And by the way, average revenues in the room right now, over $1 million ahead. You don't have to be at that level to join us. We just want to make sure this ain't your first rodeo. There is a brief application, iconicwithallybrown.com. And listen, if it's not a fit for you, please share that with someone you know who may be thinking, my God, there's got to be something else. I am looking for a different type of women's event where I could work on my next level of the business and myself. It's a 2-day power up. We do a lot of fun stuff, group discussion, blowing up previous frameworks. I think this room's going to be building the future in more ways than one, not just for themselves, really the think tank we're going to have in that room. iconicwithallybrown.com, November 3rd and 4th here in Phoenix. Life's normal down here. Come on down. There's great dining, shopping, hiking. It's a great place to be. And we'd love to have you. iconicwithallybrown.com. Have any questions, just DM me on Instagram or write my team. Okay? Now for this juicy bonus episode that was part of my IG Live Iconic Conversations series. Get ready for a mind-blowing conversation with Eleanor Beaton. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to hang in here for one. Honored she's going to be joining us today because she's a rock star. She's got more accolades than probably many of us put together. And she's joining us from Canada, the interesting country of Canada. Eleanor, you can tell us more about that today. What's going on? We want to come break you out. We're going to come break you out to come visit us. Let me just make sure we're all set here. And Eleanor is requesting to join. This is going to be fun. We're going to have fun today. Great to see some people joining us. It's going to be an incredible conversation on women's leadership. There she is. I haven't seen you. I think seen you in like 2 years.
I know. Don't I look better than ever? Do.
I don't know why I'm laughing. No, I'm sorry. You just make me laugh. You always say the things that make me laugh. Where are you? Are you home?
Yes, I'm home in Eastern Canada. It's hot. It's amazing. It's a very hot, gorgeous summer here.
This is going to be a great conversation. I was just texting Eleanor offline. I'm like, I have to remember this isn't a personal catch up because we usually just go right into it. And like some things would be completely inappropriate for a live for our audiences. But to get started, I'd love to give an official introduction to Eleanor, who's joining us today. So Eleanor came into my life, I think it was 2016. No, earlier than that, you interviewed me for one of your telesummits when people did those. Did they call it that then?
Virtual summit.
Yeah.
It
was audio only. Remember that? I think. Yeah. And it was such a good interview. I'm like, who is this woman? And she has this name that makes you just know she's important. And then she circled back in my life for a consultation day. There's this amazing stuff going on for Eleanor. And she's like, I just need a sounding board to kind of think through this and let's the next big level. And then we worked together for a few years and I've sent clients to her as well. And she is someone I consider one of the foremost leadership experts in North America. Eleanor is that good. And she's someone that when I think of women's leadership, I think of Eleanor. And when I was thinking of some iconic conversations that we could have right now, leadership is a word that's used in so many different ways, but really when you look at current times, this is needed just more than ever. And I could read you Eleanor's whole bio, but where can they go read all these incredible things about you? Even better.
Love it. Just go to eleanorbeaton.com.
Okay. Very cool stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Visiting Women's Exchange Executive Program at Yale School of Management. She's on the board of directors of 2 Canadian VC, Corporate Excellence Awards, Canada's Leadership Coach of the Year. You get the idea. Am I still really in your bio or did you put it in there for me?
It's in there for you. You feature prominently, Allie, as you should.
It says that Allie Brown herself has deemed her one of the foremost leadership experts in North America. So I like it. The stamp of approval. So first of all, how are you? I have to ask, how is Nova Scotia? How is Canada? You guys getting through the summer?
Yeah, you know what? We're totally getting through the summer. Nova Scotia is like small c conservative. And so what I mean by that is that we tend to be, as a province, we're sort of following the rules, taking care of each other, doing what we can do. Any grumbling is pretty quiet. We keep it pretty quiet and to ourselves. But the benefit of that is that my kids were in school all year. We had very low rates of COVID here. Life in many ways was very normal. And so that was really the benefit of living in a place like this. Although I must say we are a peninsula surrounded by 3 sides on water. There's one airport and one way to get in and out. I cannot wait to get back to traveling. There was a time in my life where I really wanted to cut back on traveling. I have, and I'm ready to reemerge.
Oh, I miss it. I have to say as a mom too, and I feel guilty saying this, but you moms will get this. If I wasn't on a plane like every 60 days, I'd start to get a little shaky, you know? I'm like, mommy needs a trip. Mommy's going on a trip. Because I remember just as soon as that plane would take off, I would be like, oh my God, my brain is back and I have hours to think. And I have a stack of reading. And so those trips, I think many of us realized, as stressful as they could be, that was our alone time for many of us.
It was like oxygen and this really reliable reset to just reconnect with your own mind.
Yeah.
Meditate for 20 minutes every morning. And there's still nothing like 3 days of solitude with a few hours flight on either end. I miss that. And I think so many women miss that.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation. Right? So when I reached out to you, I said, listen, leadership is a topic that both of us could really dive into here really well together. And then you add on top of it, though, leadership for women. And then on top of it now, leadership for women in the current state of 2021, like the world imploding, industries being reinvented. We're also, many of us are, even if we're running the show at the company, we're also running the show at home. We're figuring out what do we do with these kids and making decisions about that. I'd love you to just talk from your current perspective and observations on the powerful women clients that you work with and peers. What are your observations on leadership right now for women, especially in today's world?
Well, I think you've probably read the stories. I know a lot of the people watching have on this sort of wave of resignations that we're seeing among leaders everywhere. And I really think of it as the great reinvention. And I think for many of the women that I work with, that I know, my colleagues, clients, myself personally, this has been an incredible time of reevaluation. And that is coming. We did have a lot of imposed solitude in some ways this year. We were homebound for the last 18 months. And when you can't distract yourself with the normal things that we entertain ourselves with, you really have to, you're forced to confront things. You're forced to confront, what do I really want? Why am I doing this? I think that the last 18 months have been a period of tremendous examination. Also, what I have witnessed is a certain amount of disillusionment, and I know that you've
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's sort of what the disillusionment that I'm talking about is this idea of, why am I doing all of this? What's really important? Like, what truly matters? Mm-hmm. And I personally see that we're at a time now where we are experiencing as a planet the limits of never enough culture. More is all better. And there's no such thing as enough. We always have to be getting more, moving faster, getting tougher, doing all of this kind of thing. And just last week, the UN released its big climate change report. It's dire. And I think what we're seeing is, at the same time that so many women leaders like you, myself, others, friends, clients, colleagues are experiencing this sense of disillusionment, this questioning, why am I doing what's really important? Mm-hmm. At a global level, we're saying, look, we need to re-examine how we define growth, how we create fulfillment, and what our actual model of growth should look like, both at the level of a country's economy, but also at the level of the individual business and the woman herself.
Yeah. And I relate to this on a very personal level when I'm working with clients, because you know how I work. Usually the first thing I look at is, what are the industry frameworks and systems and the matrix, if you will, that they've built their business around, right? What are those metrics that they honored? What are those pathways that everyone said, well, this is just how you do it. You have to do this. To the point of some women walking in my door having their adrenals burned out, launching for the sake of launching, because once you do $1 million launch, then you need a $2 million launch, and you have 20 people on the team, then you need 40 people on the team. And then the whole big goal is getting the funding, and it just never ends. And so the stepping back and going at, what is this really about? What do you want? Mm-hmm. And it can be contagious though, even in some of our groups, right? Because there's some people like building, like they're hammering it, and it's amazing. We're like, wow, it's so inspiring. Like, I think maybe I want that too. And then maybe we get into that and we're like, oh no, that's cool for her, but I want to do something like that, but in a much different way. This is the fun part, ladies. This is the incredible time we're in that I want you to take in, because once you turn off the news right now, turn off all that negativity, this is such an incredible time of reinvention.
Yes.
This is in history. I'm not even talking about our lifetimes. I mean, in history. And women are at the forefront of this.
Well, you've talked about this idea of being a status quo disruptor. And the story that you're just talking about, this idea of challenging each other or of being inspired by people who are continuing to raise the bar. I think in today's world, it's less about disrupting the status quo and much more about disrupting what status actually is. Because in a more of a patriarchal system, status is more. You know what I mean? It's getting more. It's more empires, more kingdom, more foot soldiers, more everything, and I think what we're really seeing right now is that for women, yes, women have become incredibly empowered, but for us to step into a sort more of a patriarchal system where it is all about more, I think the full sort of evolution of our power is disrupting not the status quo, but what status looks like. And that's the part that enormous courage. And that's certainly something that you have modeled in your own journey, in the questions that you ask, the standards that you hold. I think it's a really important conversation. And to be quite honest, I'm not that interested in any other type of conversation. Like, I'm really uninterested in sort of pre-existing versions of status, because I think that is really harmful to women, to communities, to families, to our health, to the planet, all of that.
What would be an example of a pre-existing definition or version of status?
So I think I'll give you an example. So what you were talking about, an industry that a lot of people would know. So if you think about this idea of a launch, and I don't even launch anymore. So just to kind of give you a sense, like anything that requires energy surges, I just won't do. But it's, I'm like,
I miss you. I miss talking to you. This is awesome.
So anyway, so this idea of every launch has to be bigger. And if you're not increasing all the time, the sort of pressure that puts on a person, on her sense of self. And so that is an example of changing status. We just saw this in the Olympics. We saw one of the most incredible humans of all time, Simone Biles, say, look, this is a woman, this tiny powerhouse woman who has clearly proven again and again that she's peerless. She truly is in a category of one in her space. And she talked about the pressure of having to continue getting better, to continue winning more medals. And anything she does achieve isn't an achievement, it's a relief. And that's the thing. When success becomes a relief, you know you're in trouble. And so it sounds dire, I get it. But I think that women entrepreneurs and women leaders, it's time for us to really take a stand and be a voice of there are other versions of what success look like. There's an alternative and it looks like this. And you can completely be over on this other side and love that. And that's what feminism has been all about, giving us choices. But there's an alternative here. And that is an important conversation. I know it's a conversation that you lead and are a part of. We've talked about it a lot at Iconic, in your premier group. And that, I think, when you're surrounded by women who are having that kind of conversation, it gives you the courage to go back on your own when it's you and your computer, and the hands in your world to carry that different definition of success there.
Yeah. I'll give everyone listening now, if this is intriguing you, something that helped me when I was first trying to kind of break out of the matrix, right, of what I had built. And I was trained by the male internet marketers, and it was all like, bam, 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 very transactional, like just, and the more is more, like you said, and building to build and biggering to bigger things. I think it's from the Lorax book, the children's book. We're biggering because that's what we do. And I wanted a creative project that was just for me. And that project actually was my podcast, and just to give people like the juxtaposition of this decision at the time, it may seem really simple, but I remember at the time I had this big team and we're on a call and blah, blah, blah. And I said, guys, I got something new. I'm going to be doing a podcast. I'm really excited about this. They're like, great. And they're planning the strategy and the upsell and the downsell and how we're going to do this. And I said, no, I'm doing a podcast because I want to have conversations with incredible women. And this is going to bring me incredible joy. And I'll make some great connections. And that'll help me figure out my next chapter, right? So just a tip for everyone listening, think of a creative project that would just bring you so much joy that you may not even attach the financial to it right now at this point, but there's a road. Like maybe it's going to lead you somewhere to that next step. That could be, I just want to throw that out there because sometimes people are like, where do I start besides like blowing up everything I have, which may have happened by accident, right? Industries, things being disrupted. And I love what you just said, Eleanor. I wrote that down because you said in a patriarchal system, status is more, right? And you just took this to a whole new level because at my event, Iconic, I had people write down, what are your false metrics? What are your false metrics what metrics have been your gods? What metrics have been your false gods in your business? And we talked about it and led to these great conversations. Some people are saying, followers that I don't even know. And they argue with everything I say. Like, why am I building up these followers that argue with me and don't become clients? Like, why is that a metric that we're honoring? Right. So that's one quick example, but it just blew the lid off and everyone got like much, much clearer, but you just took it to a whole new level. And like, it's not only the metrics, it's the whole system. And so there's so many meta levels of this. I mean, there's global, there's governmental, there's industrial, there's medical, just everything right now is coming up to be dealt with. And we're going education, right? Everything's coming up for us to look at and go, you know what? I wonder if this worked in the first place. Like maybe this needs some changes.
And I mean, do you think Halliburton is going to do it? No. Incumbent power structures have a vested interest in keeping things the way they are, and they work well that way. And this isn't a big rail on large corporations.
Can you repeat that? Because that's profound.
Yeah, I said the Halliburtons of the world, And if you don't know the company, just go look it up. Easy to find. The Halliburtons of the world are not going to lead this change. It's going to be independently owned. I believe independently women-owned businesses are going to make this change. And the reason is that incumbents always they have to protect something. They've built up something. So they are not the ones to innovate. It's why big companies grow by acquiring small ones, because they've lost the ability to innovate because they're more focused on protection. And so I think that like what you're talking about, I really believe that in looking inward and being really true to herself, that's where a woman has so much power to then really create a model. If it's sustainable for her, chances are that's going to be sustainable for the world. And I could be completely misquoting this. So this is on me, not on Allie. But I remember I was part of a conference once, and there was a First Nations woman speaker. And I believe that she said that in her community, there was a saying that if you want to know how a society treats its land, look at how it treats its women. And so when I think about now, I mean, obviously you can tell, like to me, climate is like the big issue of our time. And I think the way that we change it is by looking inward first and creating models of business that are sustainable to ourselves, to us, and having that as an example of how growth can be. And I can say that, this year, I really looked at that, and I looked at the toll that sort of overstretching, that biggering can have. And I was like, I'm out of this because this isn't fun. It's a sense of disillusionment when you're like, this is weird. But after a certain point, like I love money. And after a certain point, more doesn't actually make you happier. And I knew that intellectually. I'd seen the research, but when I was like, no, it actually doesn't. So I was like, so what does this look like then? And so for me, I started to work with this concept of something called a jewel business. And it's this idea that what does sustainable growth really look like? And for me, a jewel business is like, so you're growing your top line at 30% a year. You can grow it more if you want to. You can also decelerate growth if you want to. But the key here is that there's a clear intention. You're setting a very clear intention that is doable, that doesn't freak you out. This idea of goals, if they don't freak you out, they're not big enough. It's like, okay, He-Man, what else? So 30% profitability so that you grow without having to take on investors if you don't want to. And the most important thing is 30% open time for the founder.
I love this. Right? I love this. You created the new definition, I think, just now for not only your success, but I bet many of the women listening to this is like, oh my gosh, thank you. Because in the past, it's almost like if we shared that, and I'm going to share this, like 10 years ago, you'd be apologetic about it in some circles. It's because I'm a mom, or it's because I need this time, or you almost need to have a reason for it. Now you're like, no, this is success, dumbass. Yeah. Like you people, right? You created your own success model, and you're reaching those goals splendidly, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of women listening are saying, oh, you know what? That gives me permission to do that too.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, and because this is so interesting, and it started because in the world of sort of in Silicon Valley speak, there's a clear definition for what founders are going for, and they're trying to create a unicorn business. So a business that's valued at that has $1 billion valuation. And if you're not building that, a lot of times they'll write off your business as like a lifestyle business. So calling somebody like as the founder of a lifestyle business is like in the South when they say, bless your heart. And it sounds so nice, but it's not nice at all. You know what I mean? They're losing you. And so I think articulating a goal, articulating a model of success is really important. And when we have the language to do that, I think as women founders, that's critical as well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. So tell everybody, I want to talk just for a minute about Iconic, and then I want you to tell everyone how they can come work with you. You're someone I highly recommend that women work with. So I'm going to share that Eleanor did you come to 2 Iconic events?
I was at the last Iconic, and that was iconic. Cindy Eckert was there. You were there. It's a fantastic room to be in.
It was amazing. And when they let you out of Canada again, we'd love to have you back. I'll send a helicopter. for you. We're going to break Eleanor out. We're going to break the Canadians out. We're going to send a helicopter out to pick up all of you because it's not the same without you. So we're having an event. My iconic event is November 3rd and 4th here in Phoenix, Arizona. And if this is appealing to these kinds of conversations, like Eleanor and I always click because we're both very high concept. Some rooms I'm sure we go in, they're like, well, we're talking about launch models and we're talking about the future state of women in the world. And it's,
launch models are great.
Yeah, and launch models are great, but like generally, I don't know about you. The weight of the world on me is so heavy right now. Like when I go out and try to talk to normal people about, they're like, "Have you seen this on Netflix?" I'm like, "What?" Yeah. I think I'm just at this point right now. Everything's just very important. Maybe because I turned 50.
Like, yeah, and do you really want to go through life without a lot of intellectual stimulation? No. You know?
Yeah. So if you like these kind of conversations we're having, this is the whole event. And it's looking at what have you created that's amazing, but now what's this next chapter really about? This could be the most iconic chapter of your career. And that's why I brought the event back and we're having it. It's more than halfway sold out, November 3rd and 4th here in Phoenix. Here's the URL you want to go to. We'll put it below after we post this as well. It's iconicwithallybrown.com. There are a few prereqs to attend. We just want to make sure this ain't your first rodeo and you're ready for the big girl talk. Okay. So a few things which you can learn about on that page and then learn more. And Eleanor, what are you up to these days? What are you doing? How can people work with you? Tell us about everything you have going on.
So, and here's something that I'll say. I think that when you're looking to grow, culture is so important. So we're sort of in the industry that you and I both are in, which is this industry of mentorship. It's entering into a new era and it's the era of culture. So it used to be the era of blueprints. You know what I mean? The era of step-by-steps. And now I think we're moving into an era where it's really much more about the culture. So are you stepping into a space and it's a culture, and the culture is what allows you to create the change, not the blueprint. Like that's the key, right? And I think that's where something like Iconic is so powerful. It's a container, and inside the container is a culture. And inside that culture, the values will hold you to your highest, will question in a really, we will really hold the space for you to have some changes and breakthroughs. And that's why it's so important. So I just wanted to kind of mention that because we don't talk about that enough, but as the creator of that culture, you clearly have been for some time, and it's why you mentor the people that you do and why we come to work with you. I think that's just really important for people to realize. And so let's talk about me. So basically, I am having a great time running my podcast, Power Presence Position. I have some incredible programs. One is the Power Presence Position Business Accelerator. The second is the Incubator. And I will say, like for us, we're not for everybody. For me, I am all about working with high attitude, contrarian women who are really here to build a jewel business, to create a company that has impact. That's what we do. And absolutely love the women entrepreneurs that we're working with there. And so, so that's it. Come on to eleanorbeaton.com. It's the best. It's the hub for everything. So go to eleanorbeaton.com and go to Iconic with Allie Brown, right? That's the URL.
Iconic with AllieBrown.com. Thank you. Yeah. And you'll be there in spirit. So, we're on IG today, obviously, but where's the best place for people to follow you as well?
Oh, LinkedIn.
Okay.
LinkedIn. Yeah. I'm not really much on IG. I love y'all, but I'm a LinkedIn girl.
Yeah. I worked LinkedIn like a year or two. And then I just think more of my people are here and ladies, I just feel like more of them are here and LinkedIn's good, but you inspired me with LinkedIn. And so we went all LinkedIn. Like I LinkedIn out at like everything. I LinkedIn live. We had a newsletter and that lasted a few months. And I'm like, so if you saw, there was this amazing newsletter, by the way, which is still up. And it's funny because this is really funny. You'll appreciate this. So the team brings me the numbers every 2 weeks. I'm like, let's look at our stats. And they're like, the LinkedIn newsletter keeps growing. I'm like, we haven't published that for like 8 months. Like, it's growing on its own. So people are reading the articles. So you can still find on my page. It's somewhere. I don't know where it is. Yeah, that's cool. And you've always done well on LinkedIn. You like LinkedIn.
You know what? LinkedIn is kind of a great home for me. All of the people I love are like, they're lovers of Instagram, but it's less my milieu.
I don't know what that means. Sorry. Yo hablo español.
At every opportunity, basically. Yes.
Okay.
Right. So good to miss you so much. So good to see you.
I think I really love the stuff you're talking about. Actually, I think offline at some point I want to talk with you about something maybe we could do together. I think our content right now and how we think could be something pretty impactful for all these women. But in the meantime, again, you want to make sure to follow Eleanor, check out her programs. If you'd like to join women like Eleanor at my events, I love what you said too, contrarian, high attitude.
Gosh.
Exactly. So I'm looking for the women who don't want to sit in the back and just fill in the worksheet, right? We're having conversations. And you know what I love the most? And you're probably finding this in your groups too. In usual circles online, you can't have civil conversations about anything going on right now. But you get in these groups like with my women, and I'm going to guess your women, and we have some very different perspectives, women with all kinds of different cultural backgrounds, beliefs, all ages, colors, industries, everything, and complete opposites often sitting at the same table. And we're having incredible conversations. And we're remembering, you know what, this is what people actually are.
Yes.
This is who people actually are. And it's a different world. And if you've forgotten that, it's important to try to get into a live event, depending where you live. I know there's different, reasons to or not to, but if you can, and it feels good, I mean, be around humans again. Human gathering is so important. It's changed my life. I know it's changed Eleanor's, and we would love to see you at one of our events, virtual or in person soon. So Eleanor, last words of advice for the planet.
Be more focused on reinventing status than keeping up with the Joneses and continuing to try to make everything bigger all the time. Just reinvent what growth and success truly means for you personally.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. All right. Thanks, hon. Have a great day. We'll catch up.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. All right, everybody. And I'll post this afterwards with some links. We'd love to hear your dialogue. I know I saw a little bit of chat going on, but it's hard to follow along live. So we'll post this right now. Eleanor and I'm sure you'll jump into and answer people's questions. So if you need links again, we'll provide it. But thanks for watching if you were here live today. Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Glambition Radio. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you automatically get my new shows every week. Also, I'd love if you left us a review so more women like you can discover us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and other major platforms. And I'd love to hear from you personally. Come join the conversation on social. Instagram is my happy place lately, and that's Allie Brown Official, but you can find links to my other platforms at alliebrown.com. Glambition Radio is the elevated conversation for women leaders, and I'm honored you tuned in.